Hello everyone, and welcome to this session on business actions that will drive change in recruitment practice. This session marks the halfway point in this year's Global Forum for Responsible Recruitment. I'm Neil Wilkins, I'm head of the Migrant Workers Programme at the Institute for Human Rights and Business. Just a quick note for those with translation needs, and you might have heard the translation earlier, you can find the translation app in the chat at the side. Now, our migration program at the Institute has a particular focus on the recruitment of workers, and part of our work to realise better practice is through the Leadership Group for Responsible Recruitment. Now, that's a multi-stakeholder initiative that includes international brands, civil society organisations, and the ILO and the IOM. Through the Leadership Group, we work to promote one simple premise: the employer pays principle, that no worker should pay for a job. The cost of recruitment should be borne not by the worker, but by the employer. Now, as well as advocacy, it's important that Leadership Group members, and all companies, of course, recognise their own responsibility to ensure best practice in both their direct operations and their extended supply chains, to make sure that workers are recruited in a fair and ethical manner. And this session is all about the efforts business are making to ensure that this is so. And it will consist of 4 segments. A corporate member or supplier of the Leadership Group will make a short 5-minute presentation on a particular initiative or approach that they've undertaken in their supply chain or direct operations to promote responsible recruitment. But we have over 2,600 people registered for the Global Forum. And we know that there are many of you out there who are just as knowledgeable as us. So this is your turn to have a say and join the discussion. After each company has presented, you, the attendees, will be automatically sent to small online breakout groups where you can debate both the merits and the challenges inherent in the initiative you've just seen presented. After 10 minutes discussion, you'll then return to the plenary where you will be posed a very simple question via Slido. We will then move to another company presentation and repeat the process. Due to the format of the session today, it won't be possible to actually take questions from the audience during the session. But if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A box at the side, and we will then transfer those to the social wall and ask our panelists. They don't know this yet, but if they'll be good enough to answer them there later. So who are the companies who will be sharing details of their work? Let's introduce our panelists. Rachel Munns is the Responsible Sourcing Manager at supermarket retailer Tesco. Henriette McCall from Vinci is Corporate Social Responsibility Manager. Vinci are a major French construction company. Pam Wood is the Human Rights and Social Responsibility Manager at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, who deliver B2B computer services. And Alfonso Herias is the group's Ethics Manager for G's Fresh, who are a major supplier of horticultural produce to retailers throughout Europe. So welcome everyone, and thank you for agreeing to take part. But we need to get going. So firstly, we're going to have Rachel from Tesco, and you're going to tell us about the work that Tesco have been undertaking to promote responsible recruitment. Rachel, over to you.
Fantastic, thanks Neil. So as Neil has mentioned, Tesco is a member of the Leadership Group of Responsible Recruitment and publicly endorses the employer pays principle. And we are committed to working transparently and collaboratively on this important topic. Now, this is all well and good, but we know that true leadership is action. Despite our public commitments and our promotion of the employer pays principle, we recognise that we had not been effectively embedding or operationalising the employer pays principle in our supply chains. So, last year, we launched responsible recruitment requirements for our suppliers in Thailand and Malaysia, the region where we identified recruitment fees and costs occurring at the highest levels. Next slide, please. Now, you may be thinking, how is a policy a new or an innovative approach? Well, uniquely, our policy outlines a time-bound commitment for suppliers to adopt responsible recruitment principles, including the employer pays principle. In consultation with our suppliers prior to its launch, they had told us that they did not want to be the first mover on employer pays, as it could lead to commercial disadvantage. A time-bound policy with one clear deadline therefore created a level playing field for all of our suppliers. Where previous policies simply said, we expect suppliers to comply with the employer pays principle, and somewhat left it at that, we were now able to drive action on the ground against a clear deadline. Under this policy, suppliers are given 6 months to map their recruitment supply chains and create an action plan. They are then given a further 6 months to implement that action plan and align with the employer pays principle. The recruitment of a responsible sourcing specialist based in Thailand has enabled us to effectively monitor suppliers' progress and support capacity building where necessary. Although the policy has been translated into both Thai and Malay, I would emphasise that having resource on the ground in Thailand, where that individual can speak the local language, has been central to the success of the policy. We recognise that verification is also essential for us to truly understand the impact of this policy and the progress of our suppliers. Titapon, my colleague in Thailand, will also serve an important role in verifying compliance. We are also exploring the additional role third parties could play in verification in migrant worker source countries. Implementation has not been without its challenges. First off, whilst borders into Thailand and Malaysia remain closed, the majority of the fees and costs being discussed are hypothetical, and we will not be able to fully verify compliance until cross-border recruitment returns. In the interim, many of our suppliers are increasing their efforts to recruit locally with the ambition of reducing their reliance on migrant workers in the longer term. That said, there is no doubt that this policy has accelerated our progress on this important topic. I am particularly proud of some of our suppliers who are now making group-wide commitments both to responsible recruitment and the employer pays principle, rather than solely applying the policy at the sites supplying Tesco. Ultimately, alignment with the employer pays principle is now a condition of supply in Thailand and Malaysia, with all of our new suppliers also expected to comply with this policy. What's next? Well, we now intend to use the learnings from this process to expand the scope of the policy to other high-risk regions and supply chains. And I would say that if you'd like to read the policy itself, it is publicly available. The quickest way to find it is to just Google Tesco Responsible Recruitment Requirements, and it will be the first hit under the human rights section of our download webpage. That's all from me. Thanks for listening.
Rachel, that's great. Thank you very much. But now it's time for others to discuss what they think about the approach you've taken. So everyone, you're all about to be sent into breakout rooms. Now, when you get there, please do not be shy. This is an opportunity for you to talk with others. So be bold. What is it about Tesco's approach that you liked? What don't you think was good? How does the approach work for different stakeholders, the brand, the suppliers, the recruitment agents, and most importantly, migrant workers themselves? So you're going to have 10 minutes to discuss. Please just get a conversation going in your breakout room, and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you all very much. Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had a good discussion. Now, before we move on, we're going to ask you a quick question, but you need to activate Slido. So you'll see a link in the chat. If you haven't opened the chat yet, it's down at the bottom of the screen, but many of you will already have the chat open at the side of your screen. And if you look there, you'll see a link to Slido. So simply click that and then you'll see the question. Okay, we're going to do a quick poll now. When you've clicked the link, you'll see the questions on your screen. Okay, how effective do you think that the intervention was for suppliers? Okay, and one more. How effective do you think that Tesco's intervention was for migrant workers? How will that work for migrant workers? So submit your answers and we'll see them on the screen very shortly. Thank you. You know, it looks like people felt that it was reasonably sort of effective on that scale for migrant workers. Is there a second one for suppliers, Dwayne? And how effective was that for suppliers?
Okay. I found this on the web for very...
Sorry, my Siri suddenly wanted to join in the conversation. I apologize. For suppliers, 32% felt that that was an effective intervention for suppliers. So thank you very much for participating in that way. We hope that you had good conversations in the breakout rooms. It's now time for us to move on. And so I need to reintroduce ourselves to Henriette McCool. So a very different industry and a different approach. Henriette from Vinci, welcome back. And I think you're going to describe a project you've been undertaking with the ILO. Henriette, over to you.
Thank you, Neil. We have little time, so I'll go straight to the point. When I arrived in Qatar in 2013, I had heard about the curse of recruitment fees, but it wasn't until we opened the bonnet on this issue that we discovered just how common the problem was. So today I'm going to tell you how, in partnership with the ILO, we tackled this issue at its root in our supply chain. We can move to the first slide, where I will tell you just one word about the context. Vinci operates in Qatar through QDVC, designing and building large infrastructure projects. QDVC has workers, 100% of them are migrant workers, and we had an employer pays policy from the start, contract with agencies, paying them 1 month of salary per worker, and yet there was debt bondage observed for the majority of workers. So year after year, we decided to strengthen the due diligence, especially for our direct recruitment drives in 2015. And we basically decided to increase the monitoring at every step. And we agreed to pay the agencies more to make sure that it was covering their cost and profit margin. And that massively reduced the risks for the majority of our direct workers. The next step was to include our supply chain. We did so by organizing some audits of our temporary work agencies and subcontractors. And while that improved their employment practices, the working and living conditions in Qatar, the one thing that was very difficult to change among our supply chain partners was the recruitment practices. So when the ILO approached us as part of its program with the with the Qatar Ministry of Labor, we agreed to open our books, collaborate fully if the pilot focused on our supply chain. And this is what we decided to do. We can move to the next slide, which gives you a snapshot of what the pilot looked like. I realized that it's quite small, but basically the idea to retain is that on this pilot, we embarked our major manpower provider, STS, based in Qatar, and their recruitment agency, Bonanza, based in Bangladesh. There were three main pillars. The first one was to do a third-party in-depth audit, which was conducted by Verité to identify the gaps in the recruitment processes. The second pillar was a capacity building program, which consisted of 3 sessions of 2 days each, during which we basically analyzed every process and implemented the action plan. And the third pillar was to conduct an independent impact assessment study. I could speak for ages about how interesting and pragmatic and fascinating these sessions were, but because we have limited time, I'm going to jump straight to the results and we can move on to the next slide. For that study, the ILO mandated Tufts University Department of Economics, who surveyed 343 workers who were employed before, during, and after the pilot. And as you can see, the pilot led to significant results, while the majority of the workers arrived with debt in Qatar before the pilot. After the intervention, 93% of them did not pay a single fee. And for those who paid, the average fees dropped down to $268, while before any intervention, the average was more than $3,000. The pilot, well, the study is really rich, but today I'm only showing you the snapshot of the main results. It also led to a greater transparency on contracts, working hours and pay, and for us employers to a better retention rate. We can move to the next slide. I've listed for you some of the tools developed on the left-hand side, but you're all ethical recruitment specialists, so I'm not going to go into detail. They're all equally important. And I just want to say a word about the impact that we think the pilot had. Actually, Vinci has little merit in this pilot. All we did was to share the tools and processes that we had developed with our direct workers and share them with our manpower providers and agency. And it was to accompany STS and Bonanza with the help of the ministry and the ILO. And that led to an increased supply of fairly recruited workers. Actually, the truly courageous actors in this pilot are our manpower provider, who basically changed its business model. It was not just a one-shot for the pilot. Since the beginning of the pilot, they recruited more than 1,000 workers ethically. And in 2021, they will recruit another 700. So we really think that there's a potential for replicability. Now, of course, there are challenges. How do we go about and replicate this pilot with the rest of our supply chain? And as a conclusion, I will give you 4 main takeaways. The first one is that with transparency and engagement at all levels, we reach results. When there's a will, there's a way. The second one is that what works is to go beyond just a tick the box auditing culture. In-depth monitoring, especially with workers of interviews, is key. Which leads me to the third key takeaway, which is the fact that we need to take into account the cultural aspects in the way that we design this monitoring and the grievance mechanisms. And that led workers to be reimbursed when they raised alerts. And my last point, and I think it's one of the most important, we should not underestimate the fact that governments, clients, and main contractors are real drivers of change. Ultimately, making fair recruitment a non-negotiable requirement and paying a fair price for recruitment can make ethical recruitment possible. And we should not underestimate the leverage that we have as main contractors. And that leads me to the last slide, where I've just put the contact details if you have more questions, so you can contact me and Yamarai from the ILO office in Qatar. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Henriette. That's great, and a really a brief but comprehensive overview of the approach that you've been taking there. Right, it's time again for our audience once more. You're off to breakout rooms again, where you should find a different group of people to discuss the Vinci project. Now, please be aware that there aren't moderators in the breakout room, so it's free form. So absolutely, once you get in there, please just strike up a conversation, start talking about what you feel is important. Remember, what you want to be talking about is what aspects of the intervention do you feel were most successful? Where do you see the challenges? Why do you see things working? And where do you see problems sort of arising? Who perhaps should have been involved, who wasn't? What do you see the advantages of transparency and collaboration with many others? So plenty there to get your teeth into. When you get into the breakout rooms, please just do start up a conversation. It's not a time for shrinking violets. Off you go to your breakout rooms then, and we'll see you again afterwards. Thank you. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had good discussions in your breakout rooms. Time for another question. So once more, you need to hit that Slido link in the chat at the side. Okay, the question is this. The Vinci project developed a number of tools. So all of them are important, but how would you rank these in order of significance for this particular program? And it's mapping supply chains and associated risks, the template for service level agreements between the contractors and agencies, the incentive scheme for agents, pre-departure orientation sessions for workers, and grievance and remediation mechanisms. So it's, how would you rank those in order of significance for this particular program? So if you complete your answers and submit, and we'll come back and look at what you felt about that in a minute or two. Welcome back, everyone. And thank you for submitting your answers to the poll we asked. We'll have the results come up very shortly. Of course, it was a joint project, Vinci and the ILO on this. And we asked you to, they developed a number of tools, and we asked you to rank them in which you felt, what you felt was the order of importance for this particular program. So we're just about to bring the results from that poll up now. And I need to just make it a little bigger for myself because, okay. So, oh, it's pretty even, Stephen, and maybe that's a good thing because, of course, all of these were important. But the one that comes out top was mapping the supply chains and the associated risks. And so much of the work that we all do, of course, begins with mapping. But when I look at that poll and the results, it seems to me that all of those are very clearly important components of any program that any company that wanted to address the challenges of responsible recruitment would like to see in place. Okay, it's now time for our next speaker, Pam Wood from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Hi again, Pam.
Hi.
So Pam is Human Rights and Social Responsibility Manager at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and you're going to share with us the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise take on the issue of responsible recruitment. Over to you, Pam.
Great, thanks, Neil, and hello all. HPE is a leading global provider of IT equipment and solutions for business. So just to give it a bit of context, we have a large global supply chain, and many of our suppliers are large companies themselves. Human rights and ethics are part of our company's DNA, as articulated through our company's overall mission, which is to advance the way people live and work. So I'll share a brief overview of our full approach to responsible recruitment, quickly highlight some recent developments and then walk you through the details of our prevention work. Next slide, please. Modern slavery is one of our 6 salient risks at HPE, as we define through our company-wide human rights impact assessment. And responsible recruitment has been a critical part of our modern slavery work for over 6 years, since before Hewlett-Packard split into the 2 companies, HP Inc. and HPE. Overall, responsible recruitment, our approach to it is by focusing on identifying instances and identifying them, and spotting them better, by providing remedy and improvements when found, and preventing irresponsible recruitment and forced labor. So we seek to better identify irresponsible recruitment, as we know that all too well, all forms of modern slavery are often hidden in plain sight. We have found that our more detailed, robust, specialized assessments are more likely to uncover cases of irresponsible recruitment, including fees, than standard labor audits. And we also risk sense through many other channels, for example, multiple groups, including the Leadership Group for Responsible Recruitment and the Responsible Labor Initiative as well. These help us better understand emerging risks, challenges, opportunities, and how to better risk sense as well. In terms of remedy, of course, reimbursement of all fees is a must. We strongly believe that no worker should have to pay for a job. And so when it happens or when it's found, we escalate internally and with our supplier. We engage with the supplier to ensure a full assessment of the degree, amount, and nature of fees. And we ensure worker voice throughout, including a robust and speedy reimbursement plan with monitoring. Fees are one of our most critical issues with our strictest rating, and it impacts supplier scorecards and potential future business with us. Therefore, we track nonconformances, fee amounts, incidences, etc., and we report publicly on our data and our efforts in our annual Living Progress Report and our annual Modern Slavery Statement. And finally here, prevention. It's critical. We find, though, it does provide slower returns. We've recently expanded our work in this area, and I look forward to detailing this for you on a subsequent slide. And finally, annually, we review our overall approach and impact and implement program improvements. Next slide, please. Speaking of improvements, here's a list of a few. I won't go through them all, but one to call out is tools. As a program team, we seek to get practical, but also to act with a sense of urgency for change. We've recently refined some of our tools, including our specialized foreign migrant worker assessment method with our partner Verite. We've created our own framework for working with suppliers when fees are found, and that specifically narrows in on the aim of expediting reimbursement, being inclusive, ensuring that all workers are eligible, in identifying where fees occurred, and of course, maintaining worker voice and support throughout the process. We have been experimenting with different worker voice tools, contributed to many publications on best practice, for example, with RLI and GRI and others. And seek where we can to share our lessons, such as on reimbursement and preventing and eliminating recruitment fees. Next slide, please. So this is the main slide here. This session is about promoting the employer pays principle, and for us at HPE, promotion and prevention are closely tied. Prevention may be the area of responsible recruitment most important to addressing some systemic change, but it's also the most challenging, we find, and generally it lacks the immediate impacts that we would see with our work in identifying and remediating. So perseverance and partnership are really vital to us. I'll walk you through 9 of these aspects that are included in our prevention, which are listed on the slide. At the top, we have our work really started in 2014 with the publication of our industry's first foreign migrant worker standard. And the standard is publicly available on our website and covers very stringent terms in this space on responsible recruitment, including the need for direct employment of foreign workers, no contract substitution, 0 fees. Supplier agency agreements must be in place. Suppliers must be monitoring their recruitment agents' performance and compliance with our standards as well. Clear communication on these policies of no fees to workers themselves and much more. And just to flag, we're about to launch an updated version of our foreign migrant workers standard, recognizing that recruitment fees and other forms of irresponsible recruitment can occur with migration within a country. So we're committed to understanding this area of internal migration further. Secondly, suppliers are required to comply with HPE standards, and this requirement is included in their supplier contracts. So in fact, when bringing a new supplier on, we also do a screening and an assessment where we look at a number of ethical criteria, especially in the space of modern slavery. Supplier performance and engagement in our program feeds into our supplier scorecards, which are managed by our buying teams, and escalated to top management when issues do occur. So these are discussed during our business's quarterly reviews with our suppliers, and it can impact future business with HPE. As responsible recruitment is embedded right into our business, we train HPE buying teams and relationship managers on all areas of forced labor, our requirements, and train them as well on responsible purchasing practices so that we can promote responsible recruitment and not unintentionally disincentivize this space. So actually in the last year, in addition to our buying teams, we hosted 8 modern slavery awareness building sessions open to non-purchasing staff as well, recognizing that everyone in the company can play a role in spotting signs and supporting our programmatic efforts. Supplier training, of course, is critical. Every year we promote external training, and we also offer a series of our own forced labor trainings covering our standards and heightened challenges that are faced in specific sourcing countries. And we recently expanded this to include training for our suppliers' recruitment agents as well. Worker voice, of course, very important, coupled with effective communication in general between workers and management. This is critical to identifying any cases, any risks. And we, HPE, provide multiple channels for individuals throughout our value chain to raise concerns, and we check and ensure that our suppliers do as well. Of course, the effective communication helps in terms of having suppliers very clearly and articulately explain that what the employer pays principle means for workers and new recruits, and ensuring that that is well understood throughout the recruitment process. A few more topics here. We contribute to research, and that's to better understand the challenges and opportunities for actioning an employer pays principle. And we share our findings. So for example, if you look on the Verite website, HPE had commissioned Verite to research the impact of foreign migrant worker security bonds in Singapore and Malaysia, where a number of our suppliers are located. And the goal was really to understand whether such bonds and potential existing financial mechanisms could influence how suppliers recruit and employ foreign migrant workers. So there's a white paper if you wish to read more about that. We're reviewing how we impact, or rather the heightened impact on vulnerable groups. So who's more at risk and why, including migrants, women, children, ethnic minorities. And we're committing to continuous improvement and better understandings, especially for those most likely to feel the worst of irresponsible recruitment. Finally, 2 points in looking beyond our own supply chain. We launched a year and a half ago an initiative called HOPE, and this is with the aim of connecting our team members from around the world with local nonprofits in order to support those NGOs' efforts to combat modern slavery or to support survivors. HPE provides over a week of paid volunteer time each year to all employees, and we also match employee donations and encourage staff to use these volunteer hours. So we thought this was a great way to really get involved and work with experts on the ground, knowing that modern slavery manifests in different ways around the world. And finally, our own and our supply chain partner efforts can only go so far. So we recognize that government plays a key role in supporting responsible recruitment. And over the last year, we haven't been shy about publicly supporting efforts to raise awareness on the importance of responsible recruitment legislation. We've reviewed gaps and existing efforts to advance regulation that supports and protects migrants especially, including during the pandemic. And this led to our engagement with various partners, writing letters of support, joining and actively contributing to government consultations and meetings, and sharing our views and the corporate perspective. So our partners have included, of course, Leadership Group for Responsible Recruitment, the ILO, RBA, Migrant Forum Asia, CAST LA, Thomson Reuters Foundation, and sought to influence governments in Vietnam, Malaysia, California, and the European Commission. We also seek, of course, to promote and advance continuous improvement of corporate standards through our membership in the UK Home Office's Business Against Slavery Forum and the Responsible Business Initiative. Next slide, please. So in closing, HP's commitment to responsible recruitment and combating forced labor starts with our president and CEO, Antonio Neri. He recognizes that we have an important role to play and it needs to be a multifaceted approach. Thanks for your attention, and I very much look forward to any feedback or ideas or thoughts of what we could do more of or do better on from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And, you know, I'll immediately pick up on that final part of your presentation there, the need for a political engagement, companies talking to business, companies talking to government about what they require to provide that level playing field where law-abiding companies can compete fairly within the law. Okay, everyone knows the drill now. You're off to make new friends again in the breakout rooms and discuss what you think are the strengths and the challenges of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's approach. Just to remind you, there's no moderators in the room, so it's free form. Please just start up the conversation. Compare and contrast perhaps with what you've heard from the other two presentations. Perhaps some of the things that Pam said there about the importance of stakeholder engagement with government, that might be interesting. And marshalling a business voice behind efforts to improve legislation and regulation around recruitment globally. Okay, so off to the breakout rooms you go, and we'll be waiting for you when you come back. Thank you. Welcome back again, everyone. We hope you had a further good discussion on Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's approach. I wonder if certain things are common across all your discussions. It's now time for another quick audience poll. Something a little different this time. HPE have mentioned the importance to them of engaging and supporting. Sorry, you need to press the Slido, activate Slido again in the chat. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise have mentioned the importance to them of engaging and supporting local non-governmental organizations. What one word do you think best describes what companies can gain from that engagement? Why would you do that? Why would you engage with NGOs? We'll use your suggestions in a moment to form a word cloud. So if you'd like to choose a word and submit your answer. Hello, everyone. Thanks for submitting your words to our word cloud. We'll call up the results now and see what it is that you said. What are the advantages to companies of engaging with non-governmental organizations? And right in the middle there, I see the word transparency, and of course that is it. Working with civil society organizations helps you to become more transparent, more ethical. It also gives you access to and insight, I see there, because very often civil society groups, particularly the ones that are engaging with migrant workers, can give you insights that your own efforts and particularly perhaps your audits won't be turning up. A better understanding, I think that that's very true, and increased knowledge. So any company that wants to really and truly get closer to migrant workforces and perhaps understand them a little bit better and gain these insights, engagement with local civil society partners is always a good thing to do. Thank you for that poll. And now we're going to move on with our final panelist of the day, our final company. Alfonso, thank you for waiting, and hopefully you found the other presentations interesting. So far today we've heard from the big brand companies, and of course it's now about time that we heard from a supplier. Alfonso, to remind people, you're the Group Ethics Manager for GFRR, who supply mostly salad produce to major supermarkets across Europe. And we're really looking forward to hearing how you approach this from a supplier's perspective. Alfonso, over to you.
Thank you very much, Neil. And thanks again, the Institute for Human Rights and Business, for giving us the opportunity to share our approach in this panel. Thanks for the introduction. And just for those who don't know us very well, we are a large fresh produce suppliers. We employ around 10,000 direct workers in 7 countries, and we supplied our products to the main food retail supermarkets across the world. Next slide, please. In a nutshell, our vision is it's basically we try to keep things simple, and for us this means try to promote always regular employment, try to reduce our recruitment needs as much as possible. We understand that having simple recruitment streams is the best solution to mitigate the risk of labor exploitation, recruitment freeze, or any sort of ethical breach. Our fully integrated model allow us to maximize the control over our recruitment streams. As a company, we control all the stage of our production model, and so we aim to control, and in most cases we fully control all the recruitment streams in those stages. And this model it gets complemented with a long-term ethical and human rights planning. We have a central ethics function responsible also to drive human rights, to drive ethics and fair employment conditions across the business. That function is responsible for seeking a continuous improvement in our operations. And lastly, we are proud to say that we collaborate with all our stakeholders in the industry. Rachel from Tesco, it's a good example. We've been working together in many initiatives in the UK and Spain. And just to mention one of the most recent ones, we've been in the forefront of the setup of the modern slavery share intelligence platform in the UK, a platform where different stakeholders, suppliers and retailers are coming together to find a way to share intelligence, share knowledge to mitigate the risk of modern slavery in the country. Next slide, please. Our strategic approach in the area of responsible recruitment arises for 2 of our core programs. The Beyond Compliance program, which is a program that encompasses our policy environment. We have an extensive, dedicated policy environment covering areas like modern slavery, responsible use of labor providers, recruitment, which guides the actions of our businesses, our farms, our operations in managing our seasonal workforce. Also, as part of this program, we continuously provide support and resources to all the staff involved in the recruitment practices, giving them the tools, the knowledge needed to follow the procedures developed by the company. And this work gets complemented with an extensive training scheme that cross-cuts the whole organization from director level to farm worker. Then the modern slavery program encompasses all our risk assessments conducted in our direct and indirect recruitment streams, including the business, our own operations and labor providers. All the work we do mapping the recruitment costs in our recruitment streams, understanding the recruitment journey of every single worker coming to our farms. And lastly, ensuring that there's always in place a robust grievance mechanism that allow the worker to speak up, to share any concern that might be affecting them. This is obviously very important to understand if we're missing something, then something needs an immediate attention. Next slide, please. As any other large business, we will always have the risk of seeing gaps in our operations, to see our standard not properly implemented in all operations. So for us, embedding our standards is an essential element of our strategy. And this program, it's based on the principle that, you know, providing capacity building and training to all personnel involved in recruitment, it's essential. In the same way that it's essential providing the right information, the right knowledge to all seasonal workforce coming to our sites, so they understand the rights, they understand the situation from day one. So empowering workers, it's essential for us. And then awareness and communications campaigns are also very important. Having a very public profile, having a strong presence on the ground, so the workers can access us at any point, will give us more chances to get information we need from them. And lastly, having a continuous direct engagement with our workforce through worker interviews, staff surveys, poll surveys, all sorts of, currently there are plenty tools that you can use, give us also very valuable information that allow us to monitor our standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. That's great, and it's good to hear somebody talking about what happens. You know, how do you implement this stuff? You know, what does this look like on the ground? And it's time for our final breakout room now, and so this is everyone's last chance to share your perspective and drop in that unique addition to the conversation that everyone starts talking about. We'll see you back here after your final discussions of the day, but perhaps some of the things that you might like to discuss in your breakout rooms are the sort of the simplicity of the approach of G's Fresh, having full control, trying to make sure that they're in control of everything that's going on. Alfonso also mentioned about support and resources, the importance that they attach to training, sharing knowledge, things like that. Also, it's the first time today that modern slavery has been raised as well, and you know, this is clearly part of his company's efforts to prevent modern slavery. So perhaps a discussion about where responsible recruitment fits in the wider sort of modern slavery paradigm as well. So off you go again to your breakout rooms. Please don't be shy. It's your last chance to have that conversation, and we'll be returning to plenary when you've had that. Thank you very much. Off to breakouts now. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get straight down to it now with our final poll of the day. There are many elements to successfully, sorry, you need to press the Slido again, sorry. There are many elements to successfully managing the responsible recruitment of workers. And which of these do you think is particularly significant in the approach we heard from G's Fresh? So continuous engagement with their workforce, strong emphasis on staff training, supporting resources for all staff involved in recruitment, regular risk assessments of direct and indirect recruitment channels, and robust grievance mechanisms. So again, all of these are clearly important, but which is the standout for you? Which would you like to see at the top of that poll? So if you'd like to submit your answers now, and then we'll find out what you felt about that shortly. Last poll of the day. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for doing the poll. Once again, similar to the poll earlier, you know, it's very clear that all of these elements are really important to a successful management of responsible recruitment. But coming top of that poll just is regular risk assessments of direct and indirect recruitment channels. So it's making sure that you know what's going on and conducting clear risk assessments on those channels. So thanks for taking part in that last poll. And now we're very conscious that we've gone over on time, so we're just going to do one last thing before wrap up. I want to bring all of our presenters back on for a final question to them all. So welcome back, Rachel, Henriette, Pam, and Alfonso. So all of you have talked about what is important to your company and your own unique approach to the issue of responsible recruitment. But I'm interested, what is the one thing that you will take away from listening to the others, or perhaps from our audience surveys? What is it that you've heard today that you thought was significant? So perhaps we'll start with Rachel.
Thanks, Neil. I'm sure we could speak at length on this topic, and as we indeed are. I think maybe just one point I'd highlight or emphasise, and I know a number of the other speakers referenced it, is just the value of worker voice in all these conversations and the importance of listening to workers to truly understand their experiences of the recruitment process. So I think, yeah, worker voice and really valuing that in this whole kind of intervention.
Thanks, Rachel. Henriette, how about you?
Yes, I will highlight what Alfonso said about going back to the basics, permanent contracts, regular employment, manpower planning. And there's still a long way to go, but it's great to see momentum from businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Henriette. Pam, how about you?
Yeah, just to echo what Rachel said as well, you know, how do we really ensure that workers have a voice and are heard and consulted throughout all of this work? But I really do want to reach out to Henriette, to you. You mentioned that in your pilot, your recruitment agent really changed their business model. And this is an area we're interested in looking more into and just seeing, you know, was it from their perspective for the better? Was it a positive change? And, you know, how does that look for recruitment agents?
Great, thank you. And then finally, Alfonso, what have you learned today from the brands in the room?
Yeah, I think to me, the message that captured my attention the most, and I think a fantastic way to summarize this panel is what Henriette said, where there is a will, there is a way. In this panel, we've seen completely different organizations approaching a complex issue like responsible recruitment in completely different ways, but all organizations have proven that they made very positive changes in their supply chains, and it's because there is a will. So to me, that is a message that I'm taking from this session.
That's great. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, everyone, please don't forget that you can add additional comments onto our the portal social wall, the portal for the Global Forum. There's a very active social wall there, so you can add additional comments and questions there. Add your thoughts on the session and pose a question or just agree with something that somebody else says. It is vital that we take advantage of these online opportunities as we're not at an in-person event. So please do check out the wall and add your opinion. Also feel free to use other social media too. Finally, I just want to say thank you to all our panelists for making such interesting presentations today and to be willing to have them picked apart by other people. Rachel, Henriette, Pam and Alfonso, thank you very much. And thank you too to you, the audience, and for your active participation in our breakouts. We hope you found it interesting and useful, and some of you might even have made new friends. That's our final session for the forum today, but sessions tomorrow start at 11 o'clock Central European time with an IHRB-led session on the hotel industry in the Gulf. And we hope that many of you will continue to join us for different sessions over the next 2 days. Thank you all very much, and we hope that you all have a good evening. Thank you, goodbye.